Hey there, my name is Drinie and you're watching Yoga Merge. I'm about to break down plank pose. You see this all the time in most yoga classes and you may or may not be doing this the right way, so I want to give you certain alignment points to get you covered. So let's start on our hands and our knees right here in tabletop position. So you just want to make sure that your hands are shoulder width apart. Your palms are nice and flat and your fingers are spreading out wide, and there's a little bit more grip on the tips of the fingers. And there's a little bit more pressure as well in the thumb and index finger, knuckle, and finger mound, okay? So press that down a little bit more. It might help to lift it up first and then press it down firmly. From that, feel your index and thumb finger mound squeeze in towards the center, so isometrically drawing that in towards the center line of your mat. And then feel your arms getting nice and straight. Make sure your shoulders are directly over your wrists, okay? So if I'm here, I'm actually feeling as if I'm hugging a block in. If you're a beginner, it might even be helpful to hold a block and feel that, so you know that you're turning your whole arm length on. And that's really what's gonna help lift you up later on when we straighten our legs. Okay, so shoulders over wrists, drawing the fingers out wide, thumb and index finger mound squeezing into the center as well as the forearms. I'm gonna actually scoot up in front of my mat. And then shoulders over wrists, like I mentioned, shoulders, okay? Shoulders are over the wrist, but they're also drawing away from the ears, okay? They're not hunched up over here. So feel your shoulder blades go down the back. Once you do that, it's also really important to start engaging the core. So how does that work? You'll feel you have a lower rib right here and your frontal hip points. So usually this is what happens, especially if you're a beginner. You want to feel that connect. Lower ribs, frontal hip point, connect. You're turning your core on so that there's a nice straight line, okay? So feeling that core turn on, and then from that you can then go ahead and start to straighten the legs. When you straighten the legs, you can bring your feet hips width apart. And you really want to turn your legs on. So the inner thighs lift up towards the ceiling and the shins squeeze in towards the center. Okay, so also make sure that your butt's not up here or drooping down right over here. If you find that you're one of those, then you want to strengthen your core a little bit more, and you might want to take it a step back right here in modified plank pose with your knees down. So just be aware that if you have this variation, that your shoulders are still over your wrists and your butt's not up right here, okay? So modified version, shoulders over wrists. I'm on my knees. I'm still hugging into my midline, so knitting the ribs, drawing the tailbone over towards the backs of my knees, opening my heart and looking forward. How much forward? Probably about 1 or 2 feet in front of your fingers. So you don't want to crank your neck that there's a bit of a crease right here in your cervical spine, but you just want to keep it the same length as your spine. So you're right here, you're not here, okay? So this is how it looks if you're in the modified version. If that's getting easier for you, again, get back up and lift your knees into the full version of plank. Press the hands down and then feel a buoyancy and a lift from your wrists all the way up to your shoulders. So much so that you actually feel a little space getting created in between your shoulder blades. So in plank pose, you want to actually feel, you're not right here, you're actually feeling a hollowing out in the chest and creating some space in between your shoulder blades. It might even help if you ask somebody to come and place a hand in between your shoulder blades, and then you want to puff up towards that area of their hands just to feel that space getting created. But you're not rounding, you're still opening up a little bit more here in the collarbones and looking forward. Okay? If somebody goes behind you and presses on your heels, you don't want to be all collapsing right there. You actually want to feel an integration because there's a push back. You're pushing energy from your heels all the way towards the crown of the head. In order to do that, you need to feel the muscle integration and you need to feel your body engaged. So there's no floppy parts in plank pose. I usually see floppy parts in the elbows, you know, getting kind of lazy and you're right here and it's just really hard. I would rather see you with straight arms and knees down. Or I also see people sometimes having floppy legs and they're not exactly integrated. Straighten your legs and actually feel the energy press back towards your heels. Feel it go all the way towards the crown of the head. Okay, so just to give you a different view, I'm going to be facing you right here. I'm going to be setting up hands shoulder width apart, arms squeezing together, shoulders over the wrists. I'm going to start to feel my collarbones go wide, shoulder blades down the back. As I press down with my hands, I feel a lift and a buoyancy creating space in between my shoulder blades. And then I'm going to feel my tailbone reach towards my heels. My ribs knit in, my core turns on, and I look forward slightly. Okay, there you go. Plank pose. Keep practicing. If it's a little difficult for you right now, then the more you do it, of course, the easier it gets. Try the modified version a couple of times and then just work up to that. Once you start feeling your arms getting stronger and your core turning on, then you can start to practice the full variation of plank pose. All right, yogis, I'll see you soon. Hey there, yogis. My name is Drinie, and you're watching Yoga Merge. I am about to break down Chaturanga, otherwise known as four-limb staff pose. It's a pose that you'd love to hate, but it is really good because it strengthens the upper body and the core. And if you're wanting to do arm balances and inversions one day, this is a really good prep pose for that. It is a pose that you repeatedly do in a regular vinyasa class, and I find that not a lot of teachers give detailed instruction about this pose, which can be problematic if you're not doing it right, because through the repetitive motion of the Chaturanga within a vinyasa class or the regular vinyasa sequence, I find that it can possibly lead to pain, worse yet, injury. Okay, so I got you covered. I'm going to break it down for you, and it usually starts from plank pose. So I'm going to give you two variations. If you're an absolute beginner, this is the modification that you could start with. You're going to be in plank pose and you're going to have your knees down, right? So making it easier for you, just making sure that your shoulders are over your wrists and your butt's not up. Your core is turned on, your knees are on the ground. Okay, so from here, it is like, if you're not really familiar with Chaturanga, it's like a tricep push-up. So your elbows are gonna be bending towards the back of the mat. So just make sure that the eye of the elbow, these guys right here, are facing the front of your mat. You're gonna be looking forward about 2 feet in front of your fingers. So just make sure that you're not cranking your neck right there. Your cervical spine or your neck is in line with your spine. Okay, core turned on, and you're gonna bend your elbows as you lower slow. Okay, just be aware that you don't lower all the way down, and I see this misalignment happen where the shoulders dump down lower than the elbows. Okay, so I would rather have you just bend even a tad bit to avoid this. Okay, if you want to go deeper, then you'd want to just stay right over here. Okay, lift back up. If it helps, have somebody come over towards your sides and just check that your your shoulders are not lowering down further than your elbows, okay? If anything, you want to keep them in line, or if it's too difficult, then don't go down that much. It also helps if you have a block right there. So once your shoulders touch the block, or actually get anywhere near the block, then that's your little cue that you've gone a little bit too far, and then you can back up. So I'm gonna just do that one more time. I'm actually gonna face you right here. Setting up shoulders over wrists, hands shoulder width apart. I'm gonna look forward slightly, open up the collarbones, keep the belly nice and engaged, bend the elbows back, and lower down. Right here, and I lift back up. Really important as well to keep these elbows hugging in towards the body so they don't flare out this way. And you'll find that the closer that they are to the body, actually the easier it gets. So I see that, with beginners, they end up doing this. And it's not your regular push-up, like I said, it's a tricep push-up, and you bend the elbows backwards. Okay, so do that in your regular vinyasa class. Once you start building up that strength, and like I said, it's really good for the arms, you'll find that you start getting toned in your triceps, and you really feel your core turn on. Then you could progress to the straight leg, regular Chaturanga variation. How that works, so you're right here in your regular plank with your knees off the ground. And take an inhale here. You're gonna shift forward. Check out my feet. I'm gonna shift forward slightly, okay? And then I'm gonna keep my elbows bent. See if you can lower down in one diagonal plane. Usually that happens on the exhale. Inhale, lift back into plank. Notice my shoulders, again, they don't go lower than the elbows. They're not here. They're see if you could just lower down to this point. Lift back up, okay? So you want it to be in a 90-degree angle. Your shoulders are right here, your elbows are reaching back. And I'm gonna do that now in this view so that you can see. Keep remembering to hug those elbows in towards the body. I can't stress that enough because usually that's what I see, okay? Here we go. Shoulders over wrists. Inhale. Exhale, Chaturanga. Elbows squeezing into the body. And then I lift back up. Inhale. Exhale. It's a pretty challenging pose, I'm not gonna lie. If you do it yourself, you'll know. But keep practicing and it will get easier. Hey there, my name is Drinie and you're watching Yoga Merge. I'm about to share the alignment points of Bhujangasana, otherwise known as Cobra pose. It is a back bend
a heart opener, and it's really good to reverse the internal rotation that usually happens throughout our daily lives. You know, more often than not, we're texting or we're driving or on our computers hunched over like this. So this is really good to counter that and open up the heart, draw the shoulders back. So we're gonna start on our bellies. So you're right here, okay? You're gonna make sure that your feet are no wider than your hips. So I'll take it first, the alignment from the toes up, okay? So first, make sure that the toes are no wider than your hips. You're tacking down all your toes, as well as the pinky toe, and the tops of your feet. Your legs, they're gonna be squeezing together. Shins in, inner thighs out. Your butt, you're gonna try to keep your butt nice and soft so they're not crunching up, which usually restricts the lower back from opening up and lengthening. Because in Cobra, you really wanna lengthen throughout your spine. So all the way from your coccyx towards the top of your head, you want that opening, lengthening, and then bending upwards, okay? So you always wanna lengthen first before you bend. Now, from that, you're gonna feel your lumbar spine lengthen and feel that all the way to the crown of the head. Now place your hands right by your chest line. Your elbows, they squeeze in towards the center. Already feel your shoulders roll away from your ears so that these collarbones, they smile. Elbows squeezing in towards the center. From that, you're gonna slowly lift up, okay? Lift up ever so slightly first, and then lower it down. So taking this in stages, press down on your pubic bone and then press down on your hands as well. Lift a little higher. Exhale, lower. And this time we're gonna go to the highest length. Now take note, Bhujangasana is different from upward facing dog, which we'll get to in another video. But I'm gonna show you again, pressing down and then lifting all the way up. This is pretty much as high as you'd want to go in your in your Cobra. Your elbows are going to squeeze in towards your body. Your shoulders are going to draw back, and you're going to draw the heart forward through the shoulder gates. Okay, now try not to crank your neck too much so that you avoid compressing in your cervical spine and your neck. You're just going to look forward or look up slightly. Keep drawing the shoulders back, squeezing the elbows towards the body, and then exhale, lower down. To show you that in another angle, I'm gonna face forward and face towards you, and I'm gonna set it up one more time. Coming onto my belly, hands right by my chest line, tacking down the tops of my feet and my toes, relaxing my butt and feeling a lift and a curl all the way to the crown of the head. Pressing down, tops of the feet, pubic bone and hands, elbows close to the body. Shoulders draw back and away from the ears. Shoulder blades squeeze together to draw the heart forward. Maybe I'm looking up and I'm breathing, smiling, together with those collarbones. And I exhale, lower down. It is so good to keep opening up the chest, and it actually takes away any kind of depression and sadness, because usually when we're sad and depressed, this is what we're doing. So instead, we're opening up and we're smiling instead. All right, you guys, that was Cobra Pose, Bhujangasana. Hey there, I'm Drinie and you're watching Yoga Merge. I'm about to break down a heart opener back bend called Upward Facing Dog. You see this in regular vinyasa classes and usually flow through it quite fast, sometimes not really particular about the alignment. So I'm gonna break it down for you. Now, I just want to make sure that you know that there is a difference between Bhujangasana Cobra and upward facing dog. The main difference with this is that the thighs are off the ground. In upward facing dog, the only thing that's touching the mat are the tops of your feet and your hands. Have a look. I'm going to start right on my belly. I'm going to place my hands, okay? My palms are flat and my fingers are spread out wide, and I'm going to place that right in the tops of my upper ribs. So right at the line of my upper ribs is what I meant. Now, I'm going to place my feet hips width apart, no wider than that, and I'm tacking down on all 5 fingernails, okay? Even the pinky nail. That as well as the tops of the feet. Now, even when I'm setting up, I'm already drawing my shoulders away from the ears, shoulder blades together, elbows squeezing in towards my body. I'm going to press down on the tops of my feet and my hands, lift the thighs off the ground, and once I'm pressing down, I keep drawing the shoulders away from the ears, shoulder blades together, to draw the heart through. I see a lot of people cranking their neck like this. Try to avoid that. Instead, just have a natural curve, not too much. You could look up or look straight ahead. Keep drawing the heart forward. And exhale, lower down. I'm going to do that in another angle to face you so you can see. Again, you really want to make sure that you draw the heart forward and spread the collarbones so that they're nice and smiley. And when you press down with your hands, you really feel a lift and a buoyancy from the wrists all the way to the shoulders. It's a lot of work, yes, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. I'm going to try it right here in front of you. I'm actually going to do this from a Chaturanga so that you know the transition, which is usually coming from that sequence. Plank, Chaturanga. You only lower halfway down. You roll over the tops of your feet. Thighs are off the ground. You pull your heart and your chest through, and you draw the shoulder blades back. Just check that the shoulders, they stay on top of the wrists. The creases of the wrists, they're parallel to the front edge of your mat. And it is work to really draw the heart through, but the more you do back bends and open up your back and find also the strength in your arms from Chaturanga and plank, the easier it will get. All right, yogis, keep practicing. I'll see you soon. Hey there, you're watching Yoga Merge with me, Drinie. I'm about to break down a pose that you see in almost every yoga class. Can you guess? It's downward facing dog, also known as Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. So downward facing dog is one of those poses that you see all the time, and I really want to be able to break it down for you and give you specific alignment points that will allow you to create a little bit more length in these areas that you want to lengthen and create more ease. Because I remember when I first started down yoga and I got into downward facing dog, I was just like, oh my gosh, people hold this pose, it is so hard. But usually that comes when you're not integrated and aligned properly. So this is going to help you find that. Let's start with our hand position. You want your hands no wider than shoulder width apart. Your palms are going to be completely tacked down on the mat, okay? So you don't have to lift up first. We're just going to focus on the hands, and then we'll move back towards the body and down towards the heels. With your palms flat, you want to spread your fingers nice and wide. Think about it. This is the base
There are only there are 4 things touching your mat, but at the top, it's just really your hands. And so you want that nice and stable. To get that as stable as possible, you want a wider stance. So really spread your fingers out as much as possible. I like to just check that the creases of my wrists are parallel to the front edge of my mat. And usually that tells me that I'm in the right alignment to avoid any kind of wrist pain. Lift up your thumb and your index finger, okay? I want you to tack that back down the mat and apply a little bit more pressure in that thumb and index finger mound. From that, you're gonna feel the inner arms turn on. So it's as if they're squeezing a block in between this area, thumb and index finger. If it helps, actually grab a block and feel your arms squeezing it in. Okay, then tack it back down. Feel these inner arms turn on. Okay, now as I'm moving back, I'm actually gonna start to lift my hips up. I'm gonna curl my toes under and lift my hips up and back. Okay, so this is your down dog. You may not be able to touch your heels right away. That's fine. We'll get to that in just a bit. From your hands pressing down and your forearms squeezing in towards the center, draw the the shoulders away from the ears. So you actually feel that the shoulder blades go down the back and they widen a bit. So the feeling is there's an internal rotation from your elbows down, okay? Also accentuated with this thumb and index finger pressing down, but there's an external rotation from your elbow all the way to your shoulder girdle. And then you're feeling that with your shoulder blades opening up wide. Your head is in line with your arms. And I usually like to look towards my legs, so my gaze is maybe about towards my knees. So that's just in line with the arms. I'm gonna feel my hips go up and back, creating length in the side waist, creating length in the whole spine. So if it helps to even imagine a balloon wrapped around your waist and actually pulling it up. From that, because you want your hips to be up to the highest level, you're gonna feel energy reaching down towards your heels, lengthening the backs of the legs. Now, I know that if you're a beginner, you might not have all that much hamstring flexibility, so straightening your legs in down dog might be challenging. So if that's you, then I have this modification for you. You're in downward facing dog. Okay, I'm gonna have you bend the knees and then keep pressing down on your hands to reach your hips up, lengthening the side waist. Okay, now stay here and then work on straightening the legs, lowering the heels down. Okay, you can do this little by little. Maybe throughout your practice you find that after a few sun salutations you're warming up and you can start to then straighten your legs. Okay? Once you start opening up, you really want to feel the pressure going down towards the heels, opening up the backs of the legs, all the way from the hamstrings to the calf muscles. Now, once you start to do that, you can even feel a lift on the toes. Okay, now I've moved from all the way here to the hips and all the way down towards the heels. I'm gonna work towards the front of the body. From the front of the body, you wanna feel now arrows going up towards the legs. So your shins are contracted, they're squeezing in together, and then your kneecaps and your quads are drawing up. Now, moving into this area, which is so important. I see some people really pressing the shoulder blades down or shoulders down, and what happens is that they start to arch in the lower back and dump their lower ribs down. Now, instead of doing that, see if you can then knit the ribs in. Have a look. I was first right here. Might be really good for your shoulders, but this is not a really good downward facing dog. It's not that integrated. It's not integrated at all. So instead, I draw my lower ribs in and start to feel my core turn on so that you're in this nice V shape. I've also seen or heard downward facing dog called mountain pose, because you want to imagine that nice peak with your hips and a nice slope all the way down towards your hands and your feet. Now, to give you another view, I'm going to be facing you right here and get back into it. So setting up my hands, just as a review, I'm pressing down on my thumb and index finger mound, squeezing my arms together, rolling the upper shoulders out, shoulders away from the ears, pressing down firmly on my hands, having my neck and head aligned with my arms, feeling a push all the way up towards the creases of my hips, lifting the hips and feeling that energy all go all the way down towards my heels, and then knitting my ribs in. Okay, downward facing dog is already considered a mild inversion since your hips are already higher than your heart. It is so good just to open up the whole length of the body and warm you up for what's coming next in your practice, usually standing sequences and all that good stuff. There you go. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Keep practicing and it will get easier, and I will see you next time.